The Hunger Games movies ranked from worst to best. In 2012, the young adult film franchise trend was at its peak as diehard young adult fans sought to fill the void after the release of Breaking Down Part 2 and the highly anticipated Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Bursting out of the gate came the film adaptation of Suzanne Collins' popular YA novel series, The Hunger Games, one of the last successful young adult dystopian adaptations. The Hunger Games stands ahead of the pack with its powerful portrayal of political control, inequality, and survival, and critically past performance by Jennifer Lawrence as the heroic protagonist and female tribute Katniss Everdeen, Josh Hutcherson as the Heart of Gold baker's son and male tribute Peeta Mellark, and Donald Sutherland as the chilling head of Panem, President Snow. Despite the success of the first and second film, however, the final two films in the franchise suffered from a dying interest in young adult film franchises. In 2012, Mockingjay Part 1, the first part of the series' epic conclusion, was released during a year oversaturated with young adult content, including the debut films in the young adult novel adaptations of Divergent, The Maze Runner, and Vampire Academy, following the release of Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters, Beautiful Creatures, Stephanie Meyer's The Host, and The Mortal Instrument City of Bones the previous year. Without further ado, we present to you a ranking of the films in the series from worst to best. Number 4, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, 2015. Directed by Francis Lawrence, the franchise's epic conclusion, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, was mostly faithful to the novel. Unfortunately, also like the novel, Mockingjay Part 2 was not met with great critical success. The final film in the Hunger Games franchise struggles with quick, disjoint pacing. The last 30 minutes of Part 2 feel particularly dissonant. Major plot lines are glossed over, especially the aftermath of Prim's death, which should have been given more screen time. The major characters, particularly Katniss and Gale, undergo major character changes that are relatively unexplored. That being said, there are still great moments in the trilogy's conclusion, from Katniss' unexpected arrow that kills Coin to quieter moments between Bugs, played by Mahershala Ali, and Katniss. After the first three films built up by tension for an epic conclusion, however, Mockingjay Part 2 was a slight letdown. Number 3, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, 2014. Like Mockingjay Part 2, the third installment of the series, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, directed by Francis Lawrence, came out right as the popularity of the YA movie franchise trend was beginning to fizzle out. Despite the success of the first two films in the franchise, the lukewarm hype surrounding Mockingjay Part 1 was a sign that the clock was ticking on YA dystopia, even one as popular as The Hunger Games. That being said, Mockingjay Part 1 is not necessarily a bad film despite its flaws. Like with many YA dystopian book or film series, by the time the third installment rolled around, the narrative started to move away from the successful formula of the prior films and branch out to do some more world building, albeit necessary, on a grander scale. Mockingjay Part 1 is the first film in the franchise to not feature the annual Hunger Games, which for some may have caused a drop in interest. However, Mockingjay Part 1 gave us some of the most powerful gutting scenes in the entirety of the film series, from the bombing of the District 8 hospital to the heart-wrenching final scene of an unrecognizable Peeta restrained and thrashing. Jennifer Lawrence gives a moving performance as Katniss post-catching fire, clearly struggling with PTSD and trying to balance her role as the Mockingjay with her overwhelming grief over losing Peeta.
Are you fighting, Katniss? Are you here to fight with us?
I am. I will. could do it, you know. Take off, live in the woods.
Number 2, The Hunger Games 2012. Directed by Gary Ross, The Hunger Games, the first of the Hunger Games franchise, was the most highly anticipated YA adaptation since Harry Potter and Twilight, and it's safe to say it lived up to the hype. The Hunger Games burst onto the scene with crackling suspense and sharp performance by a stellar cast, most notably Jennifer Lawrence. Largely appearing in independent films prior, The Hunger Games pushed Lawrence to stardom with her moving, striking performance as Katniss Everdeen, one of the YA genre's most daring inspirational heroines. Released in 2012, the same year as the Twilight Saga Breaking Down Part 2, The Hunger Games still soared at the box office and proved to be the next big YA series, one that stood on its own despite Twilight's massive, although infamous YA legacy. From the dazzling, blindingly oppressive kaleidoscope of the capital to the heart-stopping intensity of the games, The Hunger Games is a triumph for book fans and non-book fans alike.
The 12 districts of Panem shall offer up in tribute one young man and woman between the ages of 12 and 18 to be trained in the art of survival and to be prepared to fight to the death.
This is the time to show them everything. Make sure they remember you.
I just keep wishing I could think of a way to show them that they don't own me. If I'm gonna die, I want to still be me.
I just can't afford to think like that.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The victors of the 74th Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark.
Number 1, The Hunger Games Catching Fire 2013. Directed by the series' new director Francis Lawrence, the second installment, The Hunger Games Catching Fire, stands above the pack, even with the immense success of the franchise's first film. Catching Fire introduces some of the series' most memorable characters, including previous victors and fan favorite Finnick, played by Sam Claflin, and Johanna, played by Jenna Malin. The stakes of the game have been raised as all of the returning champions are forced to return and compete to the death once again. With the return of the champions, the second film installment digs deeper into the politics of the game, as alliances are secretly formed in order to assure Katniss' survival as the symbol of the rebellion. Catching Fire also shows the extent of Katniss' reciprocation of Peeta's feelings for her now that she knows how truly purely good Peeta is to his very core. Their steadfast determination to ensure the survival of the other, even knowing it means their own death, shows the evolution of their relationships after surviving the first games. Due to the massive number of YA franchises, there are a lot of ships out there, but Katniss and Peeta are arguably one of the most beloved, and Catching Fire captures this perfectly.